Sometimes I reckon the shopping and preparation for a fishing trip can be almost as exciting as the trip itself. That sense of building anticipation isn't too far removed from the feelings that most kids experience on Christmas Eve.
G'day, Starlo here, and I'm a little bit excited because it's just about trout season time. Of course, the season's already open in Tasmania and Victoria, but it's just about to open here in New South Wales, and I'm heading out for my first shot at the trout in the streams. I'm going to share the whole experience with you. I got the spin gear packed and the fly gear, and I'm going to teach you some lessons about how to catch trout, particularly early in the season. Hopefully we can find a few. But first, I had to come in here to Your Outdoor Store in Cooma. I love this place. I'm going to pick up some lures and some other bits and pieces that I need for my trip. It's a fantastic shop. It's a toy store for outdoor people, that's for sure. Ooh, I like the look of that.
I'm grabbing a couple of extra inline spinners. These are deadly on stream trout. But Your Outdoor Store is about so much more than fishing tackle. Outdoor clothing, camp cooking gear, books and maps. That bloke looks a bit sus. And I'm especially impressed by their extensive range of cooking ingredients and smoking essentials. I'll grab some of those. There you go, that's confidence. I'm buying the smoking stuff before I go fishing. Seriously, if you're in this part of the world or travelling through, do yourself a favour and call into Your Outdoor Store in Cooma. And if you can't make it in person, check out their amazing website and online shop. It's full of treats for lovers of the great outdoors. But that's enough shopping for now. There are trout to be caught.
Well, this is pretty exciting. I've finally got to the water, a beautiful little stream, and I'm about to have my very first trout fishing session in the streams for the new season. I've kicked off with the spin gear, and what sweet spin gear it is. I've got one of the little 500 Vanfords, the brand new 500 size Vanford, the smallest reel in the Shimano stable, and I've spooled it up with really fine braid. I've got a 4-pound leader attached. I've got a little spinning blade lure on the end, and I've put it on this beautiful little X-Bride rod. It's the 259 UL, so it's 2 pieces, 5'9" long, and very, very light. This is going to be a lot of fun. What I'm going to do here is walk probably the best part of 1 kilometre downstream on this little creek, and then fish my way back up to where I've parked the car. Can't wait to see what the new season's got in store.
Okay, let's get into it and head down the creek.
Whether you're fly fishing or spinning, this is a really good way to do it. Park the car at a handy spot and then walk back down along the track beside the river. Stay well back from the water so that you're not scaring the fish. Get yourself well downstream and then fish back upstream to the car.
Allow on average about 3 to 4 times as long to fish your way back upstream as it takes you to walk downstream to your starting point.
All right, here we go. First casts of a brand new season. I'm going to throw one of those little online spinners that I picked up at Your Outdoor Store in Cooma. This water is very clear and incredibly cold. I can see the slot that I reckon is most likely to hold a fish up here on the left, where it's slightly deeper towards the head of the pool.
I'll work my way up to that likely spot 1 cast at a time because there could easily be trout downstream of it. It's almost always best to fish upstream like this. Trout and other fish spend most of their time facing into the current, so this lets you approach from behind them where they're less likely to sense your presence. Naturally enough, wearing drab or camouflage clothing also helps, as does walking and wading as quietly as possible and using any bankside vegetation to conceal your outline. These rules all hold true regardless of whether you're fishing with baits, lures or flies. But where exactly are the fish most likely to be holding, especially early in the season like this? Let's have a look at a typical small trout stream from above and identify some likely spots. As you can see, the water's shallow and pretty clear, so the trout will try and seek a bit of protection from cormorants and other predators. The current here is flowing in the direction shown by the blue arrows, sweeping around this bend. As I said, trout will spend most of their time holding with their heads facing upstream into the current. One of the prime lies here is that deeper section on the bend, downstream of that lip or drop-off. I'd expect a pretty good fish to hold just downstream of this feature, under the higher undercut bank. You could cast to that spot from about here, but you run the risk of spooking other trout further back in the pool. If you spook them, they'll probably dash up the pool and scare everything else. So I'd be more inclined to hang back and cast from about here. This gives you the chance to work the whole pool and maybe hook a couple of those other trout before reaching the prime spot. Think about the importance of rocks, logs and other in-stream structure too. These break the current and give fish places to hold and hide. Active feeding trout will often ride the pressure waves in front or upstream of these obstructions, but they'll also tuck in behind the rock all the way back to here and even further downstream. But don't ignore the fast, heavy water out here in the main current chute either. This can be a prime lie too, especially for rainbow trout. They love it. It's also a really good spot later in the season when trout are often seeking more highly oxygenated water as it warms up. Jo's fishing her fly through one of those constricted current chutes here, and straight away she's onto a small rainbow. Only a little one, but it's instantly airborne and performing. It's even managed to wrap a stick in Jo's leader. She keeps her cool, lands the trout and unhooks it prior to release. Further upstream, the gradient's a bit steeper and the flow's faster with lots of rocks, but we're still looking for those combinations of current, structure and potential food supply. Those dictate the positioning of the trout. Sometimes these spots are fairly obvious, such as inflow points into a long, slow-flowing pool. The current, slick and bubble line where these inflows come together is prime. But don't ignore things like this big boulder a little bit further downstream, or this shrub-lined undercut bank. You could cover them all from back here. The more complex the stream, the more likely spots there are, but inflows at the heads of pools are always prime lies, as are these deeper undercut banks with some overhanging vegetation, especially for brownies. Another classic piece of trout real estate here is this deep inflow chute with lots of current, another classic rainbow spot. Here, further upstream again, there are even more potential trout holding lies to choose from. These include multiple well-oxygenated inflows that will be carrying food, as well as deep undercuts, and the pressure waves upstream of rocks and boulders. You need to fish them all. Trout in streams seek shelter, food and current breaks, and later in the season they look for more aerated, oxygen-rich water as temperatures rise. Learn to read the water and carefully work the best lies with your lures or flies. Repeat successful patterns by concentrating on similar areas to those that have already produced results for you. But always be ready for surprises and be willing to think outside the square too. I've put a lot of emphasis on working your way upstream and casting ahead of yourself, but this isn't always possible or even the most effective option. Here I've found a promising pool that I simply can't access from downstream. The banks are lined right to the edges with a dense tangle of vegetation, and the water's a bit deep to easily wade. So I'm being flexible. I've swapped my inline spinner for a small floating diving minnow lure, and I've positioned myself in the rapids above the pool. I'm simply flicking the little hard-body downstream and retrieving it quite slowly against the current. Notice how I stayed well back for my first couple of casts, in case there was a trout sitting just downstream of that log. Only after I've explored this area right at the head of the pool do I take a few steps forward and cover more water. I'm also allowing my little minnow to drift down through the pool with my bail arm opened after casting before beginning the retrieve. That way I'm covering a lot more water than I could by simply casting. On some days and in some places, this can be a deadly strategy. As can those little hard-bodied minnows.
Oh, yes. Oh, nice fish. Come on, stay on. Oh. First brown for the day. Wow, what a lovely fish. Check out the markings on him. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Perfect little wild brown trout. Up you go, mate.
All manner of lures catch trout, and it can pay to carry a bit of a selection, but don't go overboard. A handful of proven lures fished well will always outproduce a bucketful of hardware fished badly. As much as I enjoy flicking lures for trout in streams, my real passion is for fly fishing. When you get right down to it, fly fishing's just another form of lure fishing. The main difference is that these lures are too light to be cast in a conventional manner, so we use a weighted line instead to get them out to the fish. This also means using more specialised rods and a particular style of casting that involves creating a travelling wave of line in the air. A long, fine and often tapered leader is attached to the end of the thick fly line, and to the tip of this we tie one or more flies. These flies can be either wets or dries. In other words, they're designed to sink or float and to represent all sorts of trout tucker. Perhaps the easiest path of crossover from conventional lure casting to fly fishing is the use of weighted nymphs and other wet flies that sink through the water column. These can be fished both up and downstream, and they're often very effective.
See if we can catch a fish.
To fish down and across by swinging a couple of nymphs on a long leader and my floating fly line, I start at the upstream end of my chosen run.
Cast it across and swing it down. Oh, got him. He's not very big. Oh, oh, crazy fish. Oh, that's so good. Oh, great jumps. Oh, I shouldn't lift him on this little fine leader, but I will. There we go. Nice rainbow. Look at the colours on that. Wow. This is such an effective method, this. Swinging the nymphs down and across. Okay, don't tell your mates. I want to catch a couple more.
A few more insects were appearing now, mostly caddis and the odd mayfly spinner, and I wasn't too surprised when the odd trout also began to rise. It was that magic time of day. Hopefully time for one more on the dry.
Got him! Yes! Oh, yeah, how good's that? This is the time of day, the witching hour. A few caddis starting to hatch and a few trout rising. And this one just couldn't say no to my dry fly. Lovely fish too. Oh yeah. Nice brown. I'm going to need the net for this one. There he is, in the net. Chunky brown with my little stimulator in the corner of his mouth. Very nice. Gonna get the hook out and get him back in. Don't mind keeping the odd one, but this one's just too lovely. Oh, off like a shot. Good stuff.
Spinning with lures and fly fishing with light tackle in small streams for trout is without a doubt one of my favourite styles of fishing. It can be as simple or as technical as you want to make it, but observing a small number of key factors will largely dictate your success or otherwise. Look, I've distilled these down into a one-page PDF document for you, and you can download it right now by using the link on the screen or in the description and comments below. Believe me, following these 5 simple keys will definitely improve your results wherever you chase trout and whatever gear you use. I strongly recommend downloading that PDF and having a good look at it. I also recommend either dropping into your outdoor store in Cooma or jumping onto their wonderful website. Their range is incredibly impressive and their prices are competitive. Oh, and be sure to tell them Starlo sent you. Until next time, tight lines and happy trouting.